UVCE Chronicles, sing it loud. Echoes of our past, we're proud. From the heart of Bangalore to the world we soar.
Namaskara and welcome to another episode of UVCE Chronicles, an initiative of the UVCE Graduates Association. I'm your host Adrian, and today we are honored to have a distinguished guest, Mr. Deepak Padmanabhan. He's a graduate of the 1982 electronics batch, and Deepak is the founding chairman of Malta Properties company, and he currently serves as the partner at 10100, which is a boutique firm specializing in foresight and strategy. He's had quite a long stint and distinguished career in in the telecom sector, and has worked with industry leaders like Etisalat, Telecom, Interout, before transitioning into real estate and now angel investing. Deepak, thank you for taking your time out to join us here at Chronicles. And on the show, we believe nothing beats a first-hand introduction. So, would you like to give a brief introduction about yourself?
Thank you, Adrian. Such a pleasure to be here. And just to get started, just to set the record straight, currently I'm kind of retired. I still do sit on a few boards in Europe and publicly listed companies. I run my own investments. Plus, of course, I'm part of many angel groups which help entrepreneurs, startups, specifically in the technology space. So that's what I do. So, introducing myself, yes, I am from the 82 batch. I did pass with a distinction, but not necessarily very distinguished in terms of academic achievements. But subsequently, I worked for a couple of years in India. My last job was with a company called CMC. CMC was a company, it's a Government of India company, which took over from IBM when IBM went away from India. They managed all their mainframes. And subsequently, I moved to Dubai. I moved to Dubai very quickly. I moved to Dubai, I went into Apple. I worked for a few years with Apple and on their networking side. Subsequently, I moved to Etisalat, setting up their data products in '89. At that point of time, the only data product was lease lines. And so I set up a lot of products for them, services for them as a telecom operator, right from an X25 network to frame relay to bringing internet into the country in UAE, launching internet, then subsequently fiber to the home, and then payment gateway solutions, etc. Subsequently, I was invited by the Dubai government to be part of, to head their strategy for starting the knowledge economy piece in Dubai, which started as Dubai Internet City. And we developed the whole strategy and how to put in place, how to attract tech talent into the region, or media talent, how to set up the educational institutions, how to set up renewable zones, how to set up a biotechnology park. And this was part of the strategy. And then we went about setting up multiple businesses to support this, including the second telecom operator, a district cooling company. So I did it for about 8 years. Subsequently, they asked me to head an investment arm investing in telecom and technology across Middle East, Europe, and North Africa. And that's what I managed till around 2020, end of 2020. Since then, I've dabbled around with a few startups myself. I still do. Other than that, that's me.
Yeah, thanks for that introduction, Deepak. I mean, quite a lot to cover there. But let's maybe go back in time to maybe your childhood and schooling. So, were you from Bangalore, or what
I
was
was,
your schooling like?
I was born, brought up in Bangalore all along. My schooling was in St. Joseph's Indian High School,
Ah,
and then Joseph's, my PUC, then UVC, of course.
okay. Was
And
UVC
then a year in ISC, I did a postgraduate diploma course as well.
was UVC the place to be for an engineering degree back in the day?
Uh, there were essentially three colleges, and all of them, there were many colleges, but there were three which were particularly well known. One was uh, Ramaya College, then there was UVC, then there was BMS. Of course, the fourth one was RVC. These were the four. And of course, all the people with great scores got into UVC. I did not get into UVC because of grade score. I first got into Ramaya, and then I transferred to UVC. So I'm
That was possible. You could transfer between engineering colleges.
that was right. That's right.
Oh wow. Okay. No, because the way I got to know about UVC was my dad himself is also a St. Joseph's graduate. He used to talk about how his classmates used to come crying, saying, "Man, I didn't make it into UVC." So he always had a very high regard for graduates from UVC. At least his way and manner of speaking to me was also vastly changed since I've graduated from UVC. He sees me in a different light. So yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
It's true that all the good students, you look at my batchmates, you said interviewed Anuradha Kiran, who was project manager at ISRO. So uh, there are a number of them who have achieved great, have accomplished a lot in life, who have passed out from UEC. That's true.
So how was the UVC experience?
It depends on, there were, I was a backbencher. I was not the one who was the nerdy type, who studied a lot, just 1 month before the exam, cram it all up, and go and spit it out. That's what it is. So it was fun. I had great fun. There was a lot of social activity uh, back then, and it was a good place to be. The teaching was
So
great. The professors were great.
any special memories?
Special memory. What did I? If I got one thing out of UVC was I met my wife. She was my classmate in electrical engineering. So that's a memorable achievement.
I noticed this trend where a lot of alumni from the 60s, 70s, 80s, it almost seemed as though you naturally graduate out of UVC and into the Indian Institute of Science. Was that how was the Indian Institute of Science, and what are the major difference you noticed between the way you were taught at UVC and the Indian Institute of Science?
See, for me, Indian Institute of Science, it was two-pronged. One was the fact that after my engineering, I got into a job straight away, but I wanted to do something on the side. It was a part-time postgraduate diploma, which I did. Otherwise, I would have done a degree. That was one. And number two was my wife was my girlfriend. Then she was working in Indian Institute of Science in the Center for Aerospace.
Ah,
Uh,
okay. So, and then you moved. I mean, I think you worked in India for some time, and then you moved to
yeah,
Dubai.
about a year and a half at best.
But so, was it very normal for people to back
No,
in the day
it's
to
not.
move to Dubai?
To be honest, always the plan was to go to the US,
Hmm.
and and you start this application process well in advance. I did have admissions in many universities, but I was one of those unfortunate ones who did not get a visa. So to go to the US, because you had to be clearly not a potential immigrant. So you had to have roots in India, which were strong enough which made them believe that you would not stay on after your education.
Mhm.
So after with after having tried that for about a year, I gave it up, and then there was always this quest in me to go out. And the first opportunity which came by was Dubai, and in hindsight, it was the best thing which probably happened because I got to do many exciting things in Dubai for Dubai government and for the country, and it stood me well.
Okay, so was there a direct recruitment? So you naturally, what usually happens is people go for higher education and then they try and find a job in a different country. But in this case, I think you were directly recruited. Was that the case?
Yes, it's actually true. When I was in CMC, I had a colleague of mine who one afternoon over lunch, he said, "What are you doing here? Why are you wasting your time here?" And he showed me an ad in a newspaper. I applied for the ad. That's all it took.
That's it.
Yep.
No immigration checks, no
Nothing. I went to
huge
Dubai. No,
paperwork,
I was
nothing.
recruited. There were I think 4 interviews, and that was it.
So, how was Dubai when you actually arrived? Was it the big metropolis that we see now, or how was it back when you were fresh off the boat in Dubai?
It was still a Gulf country, and among the Gulf countries, it was the place to go to, even then. But no, there was hardly any infrastructure of sorts except for the Emirates Airlines, which had just about started, and a port. What you see today as the main highway in Dubai, which stretches from Dubai to Abu Dhabi and beyond. There's the Sheikh Zayed Road, used to be a 2-lane road with camels crossing from one side to another, and today you see 7 lanes on each side. If you've seen the infrastructure of Dubai, then you see that. That's what it was like.
Yeah. So, and I think the telecom sector, the time you joined, was also quite nascent. I think 1980s was when globally it was slowly picking up, at least the digital side of things.
In the 1980s, I joined Etisalat, the telecom operator, in 1989. That was probably a few years before mobile telephony was launched. They had fixed lines, but they didn't have anything to do with data other than, point-to-point connections. These were lease lines. And that's how I joined them to set up the data division and the data services. And that was probably actually one of the most interesting projects of my life was setting up the first internet service in the region. Then
I think would it be right of me to draw an analogy of BSNL being Etisalat being sort of
Correct.
the BSNL for the UAE?
Yeah, it was a monopoly. Yes, there was no second operator. Then when I joined Dubai government, I went about setting up the second operator, which is due today.
Okay. So was telecom a career in telecom always something you had in mind, or did just chances align you ended up in that
Yeah, I
space?
was in products and marketing, right? So I was not a techie per se. I was not an engineer. So my career spanned across 3 distinct areas. The first part of it was marketing, which was products essentially. The second part of it was strategy, which was strategy and building stuff, new companies, new ideas. And the third part was investments, which was M&A, investments, turning around telecom operators in North Africa and the like.
Okay, so I think you have a multi-decade-long association with the telecom industry. So, I'm sure a lot of students here, maybe who are interested to kind of make their mark in the telecom industry, that space. What are some of the key learnings, maybe looking back at the multiple decades you served from the telecom industry?
The telecom has changed quite significantly over the years, right? Or it is at least undergoing. It's probably one of the slowest to undergo changes because they work in 4-year cycles. Typically, you have a 4G, and after 4 to 5, 6 years, then you have a 5G, and then you have 4 to 5, 6 years, then a 6G. It always works in cycles of 4 to 6 years. So, but the operators, the service provider, it's a capital intensive business because you have a significant portion of your revenue getting into capital expenditure. It's not a one time, you keep on investing. So the appetite for a number of companies are not there because the service is pretty much today commoditized. What do you get? Internet service, mobile service, and the like, and fixed line. But telecom operators today have moved away from just being telecom providers. They have moved into technology areas, meaning they have gotten into investments into technology. They have gotten into payments. They have gotten into public key infrastructure. They have gotten into data centers. They have gotten into anything which is any industry which is closely linked with telecom, technology closely linked to telecom, is where they are diversifying. You take any of the large operators, that's where you'll find them.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've served for quite a long time in telecom. I think you've seen things transition from fixed lines all the way into the 2G, I think 3G era. And then you transitioned into real estate with Malta Properties. So, was it a vastly different shift?
No, it
And
was
how
not.
did that come about?
It was a straight bad habit. If you see all telecom operators have a large number of real estate assets. Not only do they have office buildings, not only do they have exchange centers, not only do they have tower locations, they have a number of assets which are in real estate. One of the investments which I managed as chairman was a company where I still sit on the board of Go PLC. It's a listed company in Malta as an independent director. I was the chairman of the company for about 10 years because we had acquired controlling interests of the company from Dubai. And I managed the investment arm for Dubai Holding. And when we had acquired this asset, we felt that it was how do you bring in change other than providing commoditized service? So we wanted to bring value to the shareholders. So we took all the real estate in the company, spun it off as a separate listed company to the same shareholders, and then they found their own destiny. So by chance, I became chairman of Malta Properties as well, which was a spun-off company. That's my experience from a telecom angle into real estate. But when I was doing strategy for the Dubai government, there were a number of areas. Dubai Internet City was a real estate project. Dubai Media City is a real estate project, other than having other services on top. So my association with real estate started from 2000.
2000. Okay. So I think, again, there for another decade or so, you've been involved in the real estate space. And I'm sure you've worked on a number of interesting projects. What are some of the projects that stand out to you as you take a look back?
Projects in real estate, if you look at Dubai, you would see, you can visit any of the cities, and all of these were interesting projects. The first one being Dubai Internet City, then Dubai Media City, then the n number of cities which are there, which are focused technology parks or media parks of the kind. The most interesting project was building up a data center business, both in Dubai and in Malta. Then managing a data center business across Europe by acquiring Interroute. So these were some of the data center business by themselves have evolved quite a bit now. It's quite an interesting space to be. Everybody knows what's happening with AI and accelerated computing today. So, so it's an interesting area to be.
So, just out of curiosity, what does it take to actually create something like the Dubai Media City? I'm sure patrons would definitely visit, appreciate the structure, but I'm sure there's a lot of effort and there's a huge team that's there behind executing any real estate project for that matter. So, what does it actually take to bring a real estate idea from an idea to land acquisition to construction to coordinating with all these contractors?
No, the vision was different, right? We didn't do a real estate project. When I joined what is to be today known as Dubai Holding, it was known as Dubai Internet City. I was employee number 4. So it was greenfield completely. I was heading strategy. There was a CEO and there was a chairman, and we built it from scratch. So what it took essentially was Dubai had the vision of becoming a knowledge economy space, attracting knowledge economy into the region. So that was the vision. The vision was what led to all of this. So that vision translated initially, if you remember, in 1999, it was the age of the dot-coms. So we had a whole plan which was worked out by McKinsey to make Dubai a home for the dot-coms. But when I joined, there was this dot-com bust, and we threw all the strategy out of the window and re-strategized all over again on how to make it an IT park per se, what is known as IT parks today. So the idea was, how do you get technology companies to come in? So there were 3 main areas which were involved. One is, what is it that you need to get companies to come in? The Microsoft, the Oracles, the IBMs, and the like, all the technology, and the smaller ones as well. It took a number of things. One is, it takes physical infrastructure. So you have to have a physical infrastructure which is attractive, and office space which is affordable, and technology. We built the first bleeding telecom network in a closed loop of the IP network of today in 2000. So to differentiate ourselves from any other. So we had to put in the real, the hard infrastructure in place, buildings and the telecom. On top of it, you need what is known as the soft infrastructure, which has got 2 things. One is the enabling companies like data centers or telecom operators or district cooling companies, because if you're building a large park with hundreds of buildings, you want to have in a place like Dubai, you want to have the most economical electricity consumption, because you require air conditioning all the time. So we built the world's largest district cooling company, Empower, today. So like this, these are the supporting industries you have to build. And on top of that, you require the vision of the leadership of the country in putting the right regulations in place. How do you make it attractive? What is it that you can do which will enable not only large companies, but mid-sized and smaller size companies to come in? So these were the 3 layers of strategy which we put in place to make it happen after we moved away from the dot-com plan which was there earlier.
So real estate is kind of a very demanding space, and I'm sure when you're executing someone's vision for the future of a country, or building the entire IT infrastructure, the requirements themselves can in themselves be quite challenging. What, in your opinion, what do you think was quite a challenging project for you to work on, and why was it challenging?
All of these were projects. I built 12 companies in a space of 7 years. Each company has its own. To build 12 companies which survive today, we've probably started with 20 different companies. A lot of them failed as well. They were ahead of their time. So I will talk about the challenges. It's always the same, right? The challenges are how nimble is the government in making regulations, and how do you get about suggesting what kind of regulations you require to attract talent, to attract people, to attract companies. So this is the most challenging part, thinking about what will attract people to move in and to come in. Today, if you see, Dubai is the most sought after place. It didn't happen overnight. It started in 2000, probably even earlier in the services space, but in terms of knowledge economy, whether it's, you name it, whether it's financial markets, whether it is technology companies, whether it's media companies, whether it is educational universities, they're all there. So you have to build the whole ecosystem. That's the challenge. You think of the ecosystem. For example, even today, I associate myself, I do a lot of pro bono work with entrepreneurs, startups. I give my time and energy to help them. We went to start the first not-for-profit organization in Dubai called TIE. It's there in Bangalore as well. It used to be called the Indus Entrepreneurs, because for the ecosystem to flourish, we needed people who had succeeded in life to give their time and energy to help startups. And without the startups, without the mid-tier companies, without the large companies, the ecosystem doesn't develop. So visualizing this and executing this was a challenge, yes. I wouldn't name just one, but all of it. But it all comes with a leadership which is willing to help. Funding in Dubai was a strategy. Finding funding, how do you make projects, how do you make sure that there's payback at the same time it's attractive? That's a challenge.
Right. And I'm sure it would have been quite a significant learning journey also, because as you said, you were employee number 4. So all of you, I think, were simultaneously learning to build this ecosystem, be it learning the regulations or finding the pricing or finding what's right for the customer. So yeah, I think that resonated with me, where you said more than the building itself, the amenities, the ecosystem that's built around it. For example, now, without having a clubhouse, a movie theater, a mall close by, a school close by, people don't even begin looking at purchasing an apartment, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's that ecosystem built around the property is also quite important. I think you made a transition into angel investing after that.
Yeah, angel
I mean,
investing. It's again part of the same thing. Angel investing I do on my own as well. I'm over the last 16, 17 years, I've become more of an investment professional than a strategist. So angel investment is one asset class. As part of belonging to TIE and starting TIE in Dubai, if you know, TIE came from the Silicon Valley, and it's
right.
now in 60 countries. There were 60 chapters. That meant that all startups have problems in finding funding. So how, in a place like Dubai, it's even more difficult, because you have the financial institutions, you have the VCs, but who helps the very early stage investors? So what we started what is known as Angel Spark. It's a syndicate. It's a syndicate of investors who are interested in investing in early stage companies. And this was a space which we found was not fully exploited in Dubai. And so that startups would come to Dubai, and then we invest in new ideas. So it's early days. We started Angel Spark in last year. While I do angel investing on my own, which is separate as well, but this is our main vehicle through which we invest in startups. We have every month 150 startups which come into the pipeline, which have to be filtered through, and we have a pitch night once a month, like Shark Tank. 3 to 4 companies are selected, and we make the investment right there and then.
Okay. So how did 10-10-100 come about?
That's my
It's
consulting piece. I do
okay.
some consulting on my own, so I need to have a vehicle. That's my as a matter of fact, it was started by my son,
Hmm.
who was consulting, and we both are partners in that. We use that as a vehicle.
I see. I mean, for this, maybe students who may not know, are is an angel investor the same as a venture capitalist? And if
No,
not, what's the difference?
angel investors come in very early. You would have either bootstrapped your company or you would have families and friends who would have helped you in the very early stage when you're in ideation, right? When it when it becomes a product or a service with a minimum viable product to launch, then an angel comes in. When there is some amount of revenue and there is growth seen, growth potential seen, then the VCs come in.
I see. Okay. So
So the,
this is even more early stage investing than what a venture capitalist would
correct,
typically invest in.
correct.
So this is just maybe two people in a garage with an idea or a small product they built. Mostly they would be people who would be pitching to you.
As long as that they have an idea, there is a product which they can demonstrate, and ideally they have some semblance of a revenue. There's some customer traction. They've gotten the first, if it's B2B, they've gotten the first, second B2B customers. B2C, they have found traction in B2C. So that's what it takes. That's what it takes to to become investable by an angel.
So among the companies you've invested in so far, what are maybe some companies that stand out to you, and what do they actually do?
The, I can tell you about the first investment we did. The first investment we did in a company called Dimension. Dimension is a collaborative platform for software developers using various tools like GitHub, all the AI tools which you have. And this was a 17-year-old who's just he, this year he's going to university. He's just got to university now. He started this company, and we were early investors in this company. We took him to a tech disrupt in California last year, and he ended up raising $1.5 million. Now he has got 30 employees working for him around the world, and he's going
Okay.
to university as well.
He's doing this as a side hustle?
No, this is the main hustle. He's doing the studies on the side.
Oh man. Okay. So then definitely, I think
He's
for
going to
students,
Urbana-Champaign, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign for his undergrad.
oh, that's fantastic. So I think that sort of brings us towards the end of the podcast. But on a concluding note, any advice to the students who are watching? I think you've had a long career. You've seen telecom, you've seen real estate, you've seen startups, the entire spectrum. What does it actually take to build a successful career? And since you are into angel investing, what does that mean to build something financially? I think little to no knowledge is given to students, at least as part of their undergraduate coursework, about finances or how to manage it, or how to build a career that is financially rewarding also. So any word of advice for them?
What worked for me and the challenges which were there would not be similar for them, right? Is there a common thread you can find? Probably we can. Let's work this through. In today's world, you know, the toughest part is getting the first job. And that is so difficult because that is the jobs which first get displaced by AI. So they have a competition in something which is not human, right? So that's their biggest challenge. So how do they surmount this? So the whole education system has to change. So this will give rise to a number of entrepreneurs thinking about what else to do. So is there a common thread? The common thread is not to get fixated about what your career is going to be very flexible. I made 3 changes in my career before I retired. I only made it because I had to. I had to grow. If I was stuck, I would have been stuck in marketing or in strategy. I wouldn't have gotten into investment. I wouldn't have gotten into angel investing. So it's not about being fixated, not to have a mindset set in stone, to be flexible enough to learn competencies on the fly. Everything does not have to end with a degree or a master's or a PhD. It's the competence you get to be able to compete. That's more important than a degree or in today's world. That's what I believe.
Yeah. So thank you once again, Deepak, for taking some time out of your day to join us. And to all our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to connect with us on Instagram at UVC Graduates Association, or drop us an email at uvcega.chronicles@campusuvce.in. So we look forward to having you join us on the next episodes. And once again, thank you, Deepak. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Adrian. Thank you very much. Aditya, thank you.